Hello everyone, Chris Campbell here in the shop tonight. So I'm going to be sharing with you some of my vintage tools that I use for my watch repair making. The first one up on the bench is a caliper for the balance wheel. So this one is from 1889. It's a vintage balance wheel. And the way you use this is you would put the balance wheel or the balance staff and wheel into this arbor here, and then you have an adjustment piece here that you can adjust to make sure that it's running true. So once everything has been tightened down, you would run it and check that it is true, that the pinions are running accurately and true. These sell for about $100 on eBay. They're very popular. We have different sizes, so we have a different size on this side and this side, and you can remove this part to put onto this part, so each side is, universal. So that's one of the tools that I use. Now this is a two-set tool that I use. These are roller jewels, and I've also got one in here, so I'm going to share with you. I'm going to remove it real quick. So to show you exactly how small these things are. Well, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a roller piece here that's inside the chuck. If I was to remove it, there we go. So this is the ruler piece of a pocket watch. And basically what you would do is put a roller jewel into the roller and use a little bit of shellac, and this is the tool that you would use to do that with. So basically what you would do is open this up and place the tool, or place the piece into the tool like so, and use a torch or a candle underneath it to heat up the shellac so that it melts the shellac and holds the jewel of the roller jewel in place. And that's how you replace a pocket watch roller jewel on a pocket watch. Now this is from 1870. I also have a second one here that's the same way. This one is actually from about 1880. Now these sell on eBay and other clock stores or watch repair places for about $80 a piece, and they're highly sought after for watch repair watchmakers because they're the only type that you would use. Okay. The next we have is different lock keys that you would definitely need if you work on antique and vintage pocket watches. So if you have a pocket watch that needs to have the stem removed or the part that holds the bow in place, this is the keys that you would use to unscrew those. And so we have a complete set here of different size keys to unlock the tube of the pocket watch. Now you can buy each one for about $30 to $40 a piece off of eBay and several different clock shops. These particular sets are from around 1890, and they have actually come in quite handy in the shop, and I have used these quite a bit. So these are very sought after. Okay. The next one is the bench keys. And I have many different size bench keys. And so basically what these are for is if you're working on a pocket watch and it's out of the case, you can put this into the crown part and wind up the mainspring. And you can back it out a little bit to set the time. And you have different sizes on each side, so you have two different sizes. Okay. Now on these are only a single size keys. These are for the ladies' watches. So you have different sizes for the ladies' watch. And these are what they call bench keys for pocket watches or wrist watches. Now the ladies' keys, they sell for about $80. These are vintage. These are from about 1910. Now the pocket watch styles, these sell for about $20 to $30 a piece on eBay and different watch shops. And this is the complete set here of pocket watch bench keys. Okay. Now the next piece that I use quite a bit is the pivoting, or what they call the poising tool. Now this particular tool is from 1879. It's vintage, and it does have the levelers and your adjustments on each side where you can adjust it, and you also have a leveler on this side. Now the teeth on the vise are actually pure rubies. So what you would do is you would get your balance wheel, place it onto the rubies, make sure that it's laying flush, and then use a blower to rotate it. And you would find the heavy spot on the balance wheel so that you would know exactly how much to take off. This is a very popular tool for doing pocket watches, especially vintage pocket watch repair. And so that you can find the heavy spot on the balance wheel. They do not make modern day ones that are very accurate. The vintage ones are the highly sought after and highly accurate tools for this trade. And a poising tool of this vintage and this old is about $175 to $200 for this particular tool. And I do have the case. So that's one that I use quite a bit when I'm poising a balance. Last but not least is my Jacob's lathe. And I'll turn it this way so that you can see it. This is the Jacob's lathe, and this is the bow. I do have different fittings for it. So the fittings would basically go onto the shaft here. The watch gear would go onto here and fit into one of the grooves of this side. And you have different size grooves and graduations of sizes. And so basically what you would do is lock this into the vise or to a hook or a holder. And you would use this particular piece here, which is the manual part, and lock it in place. And this piece here, I'm going to show you how it would actually go. So we would place it onto here, lock it in place. So if we had our gear in place, we would lock it in place. The lathe would be put into our holder. The bow would fit right here and work back and forth. And as you work it back and forth with one hand, the other hand uses a small little file and polishes the pivots of the gear. So this is all done by hand. Now this is from about the early 1870s to early 1880s. And I still use it. It's very popular. It's one of the most accurate ways to do watch repair. And you can buy a complete set of this particular item off of eBay and Clock or Watchmakers. They sell in the premium without any rust, without any missing parts. They're about $300 for this particular item. And especially if you have the original bow. This is a highly sought after and museum type quality piece for watchmakers. So this is just one of the pieces. Now the next piece that I use is the stake and set, and I'll show you that here. So this is the professional K&W watchmakers stake and stub set. It comes with the original box. Now this one is from 1850, and this actually came out of a museum in Columbia, South Carolina, of a a watchmakers museum, and it has all of the original stakes. It has all the stubs, And it also has the different jeweler removable tools, and it also has the staking tool itself, which is highly sought after. This is one of the most pieces that I use for antique pocket watch repairs that I use, and it's one of the most valuable pieces that I use. This particular set is about $1,500, and even if you try to find one online on eBay, they're about $700-800, and they're incomplete. They don't have all of the pieces. You have to piece out some of the other pieces. So this is just one of the sets. Another set that I use is this one here. And this is a crown and stem set. So this is actually a gauge. So if you need to figure out the thread pitch of a stem for a pocket watch or even a wristwatch, this is the gauge that you would use. And then down here you have the different size holes for the crown, so that you can figure out what size crown diameter that you're going to be using, and the tube gauge that you're going to be using. These are still available online. This is from the early 1900s, and they sell for about $50 to $75 online. And then these are other gauges that I use. These are vintage gauges for measuring the movements. And you have them in lengths, and you also have them in metric. And so this actually helps you measure the movement size. If it's a 12 movement, a 13 movement, 16 movement size, this is how you would measure. And then you have your crystal gauge, which helps you measure the size of the crystal. So you have the metric, and then you have the other size for registering the gauge. And then you have your band measurement, so that you can measure the difference of the band. Now each one of these are vintage. These are from the early 1900s, and they sell for about $40 a piece online. And another tool that I use quite a bit is the Cannon pinion remover. This is from 1872. And so on pocket watches, this is what you would use to remove the Cannon pinion on the front dial of the watch. So it actually has a pin that goes down and pops out the Cannon pinion. And in the back here that unscrews, you have different size stubs that fits into the chuck, so you can exchange those. This particular tool sells for about $80 to $100 online, and they're highly sought after. You do not want to use a modern day tool, because the vintage ones are more accurate and precise. So this is just one of the vintage tools that I still use to this day. And lastly but not least is we have a assortment of case openers. These are case openers for watches, or pocket watches and wristwatches. These date back to the early 1900s. This one is from 1900 exactly. And so you would put it underneath the bezel of the back of the watch, give it a little twist, and it would pop the back off. Has a neat little design on the handle. This one is worth about $40 to $50 online. Then we also have another one here for a pocket watch. This one's from about 1940 or 1950, and it may look broke, but that's the way that it's actually made, so that it can get underneath the bezel and pop this away. And then this particular one has a little clip that you can put in your pocket. And so basically what you do is lay your watch on the table, put this underneath the bezel, and pop it up like a pry bar. And this one sells for about $20 to $30 online. And the same with this one. This one is from about 1945 to 1950. It's the same style, and it also has, I don't know if you can see, it's got like a little hook pry bar. So you would put your watch in a vise and use this and pop the back off of your watch. And these are vintage watch back openers, and we use these quite a bit in the shop.